Namaste everyone. Welcome to this evening's Living Wisely, Living Well satsang. My name is Nayaswami Jaya for those of you who perhaps are tuning in for the first time. This evening we'll proceed as we normally do. We'll begin with a meditation for 10 to 15 minutes. I'll begin with the prayer and a chant. And then we'll continue on with our reading for this week and then a discourse. Let's begin by first finding a comfortable position in which you'd like to meditate, sitting with your spine erect and the body relaxed. Let's sit up. Now let's begin with the prayer, inviting the great ones to join us and bless us this evening. O Infinite Spirit, may our hearts be open to feel Thy inspiration, Thy guidance, Thy continual blessings upon our lives. Be with us in all that we do. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Now I'll begin. Sit up straight again, and I'll begin with a simple chant. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Now, let's sit up. Let's inhale and tense the whole body. Inhale. Tense with will. Feel vibration in all the body. Now throw the breath out. Double breath. Let's inhale one more time. Inhale. Tense. Throw the breath out. And finally, one more time. Inhale. Throw the breath out. Now take a deep breath. Hold the breath for a moment. Focus your attention here at the point between the eyebrows. Now slowly, keeping your attention there, let the air out. And breathe naturally. Inhale, exhale without control, watching the breath, eyes closed but uplifted, looking into the darkness of space at the point between the eyebrows. Watch the breath come in. Watch it go out, and check the body for tension. If you feel a little bit, release it. Concentrate on that muscle or that point in the body and release that tension. Fill that point of the body with space. All tension gone. Now, as you look into the point between the eyebrows, into the darkness there, imagine a light off in the distance, shining there, filling the brain, coming into the body, bathing the body in light. And feel that the essence of that light is peace, calmness, joy, filling you, driving away all darkness. Rest in that light, in that peace. Let's begin our discussion today. We're going to be, as we do every week, taking a reading from this book of Swami Kriyananda, Living Wisely, Living Well. Daily readings. And today's reading is about the topic of intelligence. Swamiji writes, "Don't confuse intelligence with cleverness. True intelligence isn't only cerebral. Its roots lie in clear feeling. Cleverness is usually indicates only narrow feelings." Cleverness versus intelligence. It's a very good subject. It reminds me of something that I sometimes encounter when I'm speaking with the public. As many of you know, I've lived most of my life in service to Ananda Sangha, and much of that adult life has been lived in an ashram environment. And so sometimes when I speak with the public and giving discourse, or people come and they ask questions, they'll frame their questions by saying, "How would you do such and such out in the real world where I live?" Or in the implication being, of course, that I have lived in an ashram, and because I pursue spiritual things, that somehow I don't live in the real world, and this other fellow living in the worldly environment is in the real world. Well, you can imagine that my impulse, although I don't always say this, of course, but my impulse is to turn the tables on the inquirer and say, who is really living in the real world? Who is living in the fantasy world, perhaps the world of delusion? Well, actually, I don't turn the tables, because the reality is that we're all, to some degree, to the degree that we're embodied in this ego consciousness, all of us are living in the fantasy world to some degree, and all of us are seeking to live in the real world of clear perception. Now, but you have to admit that there is this perception that is common amongst many people, that somehow pursuing God, pursuing truth, pursuing a spiritual life, seeking higher realities is somehow it means that we're otherworldly. We have our head in the clouds, perhaps, whereas a person in the business world making money, pursuing their ambitions in their careers, they have their feet on the ground, and they are you might say, more in touch with reality. But this is not the case. The spiritual life is not for dreamers. It's for people who do have their feet on the ground. And Swami Sri Yukteswar, the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda, expressed this nicely. He said, "Saintliness is not dumbness, that divine perceptions are not incapacitating." Well, this is the truth, that saintliness gives us the capacity to truly be intelligent. And when Paramahansa Yogananda first went to his guru to be with him in Sri Yukteswar's ashram, he quickly learned and was disabused of any notion that being in the spiritual life somehow gave him permission to be a little bit disordered on the edges of his life, or disorganized, and that he could be irresponsible. It was far from the case. Swami Sri Yukteswar is a very practical man, and he demanded that one be attentive in one's outer life. And this is what is developed in each of us as we pursue the spiritual life. Sri Yukteswar Ji had a nice expression. He said, "The active expression of virtue leads to the keenest intelligence." Now, what does that mean? The active expression of virtue leads to the keenest intelligence. Now, the active expression of virtue is the spiritual life. It's the meditative life. It's the putting into practice spiritual values. It's the life of saintliness. So if you think of it that way, saintliness and all that means leads to the keenest intelligence, as opposed to the opposite, which is sometimes what people think. If I am intelligent, intelligence will lead to saintliness. And that's not the case. That's not the case. Now it may, if a person's disposition is that way, but the active expression of virtue, of truth, in that active expression, we develop a keen intelligence. We put ourselves into harmony with divine law. In the quest for divine truth, the intelligence itself begins to flower. And this is the proper, you might say, the proper order, finding first that divine within us. Because what is intelligence? We think of intelligence as an expression, an outward expression of brain function, or perhaps the mind. We associate it with mind, we associate it with the intellect. Of course, intelligence and intellect have the same root in their meaning. But there's more to it than what modern science might seem to make us think, that consciousness is a function merely of brain activity. Because I know, of course, and I think you must know as well, that there are people in life that are highly intellectual. They have great intellect, and perhaps they have great mind capacity, but somehow they're clueless when it comes to other aspects of what intelligence or wisdom might embody. They're not wise. They're intelligent, but not wise. Have you met people who somehow have a total blank when it comes to being socially appropriate, or they lack what even now is that there's a term called emotional intelligence, to be able to see and understand what another person is saying under the surface. Their words might be saying one thing, but really you look into their eyes and you look into their demeanor and you feel that they're really saying something else. And if you don't have the ability to understand on that level, can you really say that you're intelligent? Can you say that you're wise? No. It implies something more when we say a person is truly intelligent or wise in this way. And this is the more subtle aspect of intelligence. In the modern, you say, Western view, intelligence, as I mentioned, is related to mind function or brain function. But in the East, in the yogic tradition, wisdom, consciousness, true intelligence in this sense of saintliness, of the larger understanding of what intelligence is understood to embody more than just the mind and the intellect. It also must take into account our ego nature as well, our ego sense of identity, who we are in relation to the world around us, and especially this fourth element, which is feeling. It has to embody, to be able to feel what other people are saying, to be able to feel that emotional component to understanding communication between people and what is really trying to happen here, as Swamiji Ananda would often say. And this is a function, if you could say, of the heart. So you must have, when we're speaking of intelligence, we have to have the mind, yes, and the intellect. We have to have this sense of our ego place in this world, which is said to be centered here in the medulla oblongata, but also, most importantly, we have to start with the heart. So these four elements lead to true understanding. And when these are brought into balance, and you could say particularly the ego self is transcended to its highest level, then we could say that we are developing fully our intelligence, our capacity to be intelligent. Now, I want to read something that I came across in this regard, and I'd like to share it with you. And it has to do with this element of intelligence and also with the heart. And I think this is particularly applicable in today's world, with so much emphasis on the mental side. And this is written by a group of scientists that are doing research into a field of science known as neurocardiology. Let me read. It's a few paragraphs long. Research in the new discipline of neurocardiology shows that the heart is a sensory organ and a sophisticated center for receiving and processing information. The nervous system within the heart enables it to learn, remember, and make functional decisions independent of the brain's cerebral cortex. Moreover, numerous experiments have demonstrated that the signals the heart continuously sends to the brain influence the function of higher brain centers involved in perception, cognition, and emotional processing. The heart also communicates information to the brain and throughout the body via electromagnetic field interactions. The heart generates the body's most powerful and most extensive rhythmic electromagnetic field. Compared to the electromagnetic field produced by the brain, the electrical component of the heart's field is 60 times greater in amplitude and permeates every cell in the body. The magnetic component is approximately 5,000 times stronger than the brain's magnetic field and can be detected several feet away from the body with sensitive magnetometers. 5,000 times. More specifically, sustained positive emotions appear to give rise to a distinct mode of functioning, which we call psychophysiological coherence. During this mode, heart rhythms exhibit a sine wave-like pattern, and the heart's electromagnetic field becomes correspondingly more organized. Now, let me read that first part again. More specifically, sustained positive emotions appear to give rise to a distinct mode of functioning. It goes on to say, at the physiological level, this mode is characterized by increased efficiency and harmony in the activities and interactions of the body's system. Psychologically, this mode is linked with a notable reduction in internal mental dialogue. Internal mental dialogue, does that ring a bell when we're meditating? Related to positive emotions? Okay, start again. Psychologically, this mode is linked with a notable reduction in internal mental dialogue, reduced perceptions of stress, increased emotional balance, and enhanced mental clarity, intuitive discernment, and cognitive performance. Now that's a powerful statement. This is the function of the heart. Now, when we think our brain activity, we think we're working up here when we're perceiving life, when we're seeing things around us, when we're interacting, we're working from here. But there's also these other components that are taking place. We're also acting from here. And if I was to ask you, which I have done many times to audiences, when you say, I am, whatever your name might be, or I am doing, where does this sense of I reside within you? Now, this can be answered a number of different ways, but most people would say, well, my sense of I is here in the knee, or it's in my hip. That's not, that's ridiculous what most people would say, if somebody would say that. But many people would say, wouldn't you agree, that when I say, where am I? I'm here. And often people, when they refer to themselves, I'm so-and-so, they put their hand here as if to recognize that. Well, also, I mean, we could say, I am also up here. Intellectually, we would say that. Of course, in yoga, what we say is actually, these are all interrelated. And yoga says the I is actually located here from this perception. It has its seat, you might say, in the medulla oblongata. But consciousness itself is a component of all of these elements, and so I also could be said to be here, because this is a very powerful nerve center within the body, and our sense of who we are and our sense of intelligence, which is today's subject, we need to recognize that and develop and cultivate this heart center within the body and be aware of it from here and feel ourselves developing it from here. And as the article indicated, we should think of bringing it into harmony with positive emotions, positive emotional states from here. Because if we have that, then the rest of the body comes into balance. But if we don't have that, the rest of the body, the mind included, the intellect included, does not come into balance. There's a statement that you should remember, we all should remember in life, that the mind follows the heart. Now, of course, we apply that to when we're making decisions. The mind, we rationalize our decisions based upon what our heart's feelings are telling us. And some people seem very, can make very logical arguments why they might want to do the most irrational things imaginable, because their heart says so. And this is the center also, and why yoga focuses on this as the beginning point of neutralizing the likes and dislikes, that emotional reaction to life in the heart. So we have to start with the heart. In yoga, we also need to focus on this element of the heart as well. People ask the question, they begin to meditate, they begin to practice spiritual discipline, and the question comes up, am I making any progress? And they begin to think in terms of progress, often from a mental point of view. When progress is truly in the beginning stages of the spiritual path is measured by the heart. We have to, in other words, the qualities associated with the heart. That's where the spiritual path begins. And unless those qualities are developed, or the negative aspect of those qualities are of the heart are overcome, we cannot make spiritual progress. And so if you wonder if you're making spiritual progress, don't look for lights and phenomena and things happening outside. Oh, a parking space opened up for me miraculously, God's with me. Those types of things. That's not the way at all. And we need to look in our heart. Are you developing love, kindness, compassion, empathy, goodwill, cheerfulness, an expansion of your sympathies? These are the elements that need to be developed first. They're attitudes. These attitudes of life. So the active expression of saintliness, the active expression of virtue. So let's substitute the active expression of love and kindness, the active expression of compassion, empathy, goodwill, the active expression of cheerfulness and sympathy lead to the highest, keenest intelligence. These are the active expressions of virtue. And from that intelligence, you might say, the coherence, the psychophysiological coherence in the body begins to come into place. And somehow, it makes sense. We understand something that just did not make sense before. Although we have a very keen mind, we weren't able to see life in proper proportion. And you might say this brings wisdom. You might say turns that intelligence into wisdom. Now the other side of those qualities, love, kindness, compassion, we have to develop those, but you might also look at it this way. You need to overcome their opposites. This anger, hatred, the wish to do harm, saying angry words at other people, using the wrong words, emotional upset, greed, shame, pride, prejudice, all of these things that Swami Sri Yukteswar characterized as meannesses of the heart. Meannesses of the heart. Now the word mean, of course, has multiple meanings. Mean means, I'm small-minded, and I'm a contractive type person, an angry type person, say nasty things. That type of meaning. Mean also means smallness. He's a person of small means, or of limited means. He has limitation, and this smallness of the heart needs to be overcome. The heart needs to be made large. And when we speak of the heart, we are speaking more metaphorically, but also the heart, because we don't necessarily want the physical heart to be enlarged, but we want that those qualities that are associated with heart. You might say with that deeper sense of the heart, the chakra, that energy center there in the heart. We want to have that expand. And if you do that, what happens when we begin to become aware of the heart, when we begin to increase its capacity to love, to be expansive, to be developed? It becomes what this article referred to as magnetic. And magnetism, when it becomes, you could say coherence was a word they used. In a magnet you find, physical magnet, what makes it magnetic, a bar of steel? It's because the molecules are all in alignment in a positive, negative direction. They're all aligned. In an unmagnetized bar of steel, they're all in random order. They're not, and you could say our emotions are often like that. They're all randomized. Some are up, some are down, many are sideways. Well, if we can learn to bring them into coherence, you could say in this case, in a positive direction or an upward flowing direction, when all the molecules or all the feelings are harmonized, brought into coherence, as the article says, magnetism begins to develop. And in terms of the emotions, it was even implying a physical effect that can be actually measured with instruments around the body. Much more so, much more powerful than just harmonizing the thoughts. You can see putting the thoughts in one direction also too develops great will. But this heart is even has a dimension that's even more physical in that way. Magnetism begins to develop. And what happens when you're magnetic? When you're around a person that loves greatly, a saint, you feel that magnetism. When you're around a person of goodwill and cheerfulness, you're magnetically drawn into that aura. And it's the same with you. When we become magnetic with our emotional selves, in coherence and harmony, we magnetically begin to attract circumstances that are in correspondence, in coherence with that, not only inside, in terms of our emotion, but the physical body itself. And that magnetism permeates and influences every cell in the body, and they too become coherent. Wouldn't it make sense that this would be good for our health, not only our emotional health, our mental health, but the physical health of the body as well? Positive emotions will do this for us, bringing ourselves one-pointedly emotionally in a certain direction. This has a tremendous effect upon the body and the mind and our outward physical circumstances. Now, Swami Sri Yukteswar goes even further than this in his writings. He said, it's the beginning of the spiritual path. He says, unless we can develop the heart's natural love and overcome these negative aspects of meannesses of the heart, we cannot take one step on the spiritual path. Now, he was stating that very strongly, and perhaps overstating it, I don't know. But he was stating it very, very strongly. We cannot take one step on the spiritual path unless we develop the heart's natural love. Because if, as Swami, his Guruji, Paramahansa Yogananda said, he says, if you cannot attract the love of other people, how do you expect to attract the love of God? You can't. Not many people think they can be angry, they can be this way and that way, but God, you forgive me and you'll come. Well, God's grace does flow in this world, that's true. But nevertheless, we also have to attract. And this attraction is what draws to us the spiritual life. It draws to us the spiritual teachings. It draws to us the environment in which we can be able to practice those spiritual teachings. And most importantly, it draws to us spiritual teachers. It draws to us a guru. And until we can develop the heart's love, we're not capable of drawing to us a guru. Because we're not capable of putting ourselves in alignment and with an openness of heart to be able to imbibe that which the guru gives to us. And so until our heart is open and receptive, in that attitude of receptivity, we're not going to be able to draw that which we need in order to make true spiritual progress. God's grace works in this world, so don't beat yourself over the head if you feel some sense of, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything right. No, but I'm saying this strongly because I see this often in devotees, that it's very mental, the way they approach God and the way they approach the spiritual path, and they go off on tangents of mentality in using a very keen intelligence that they might have, but in the wrong way. Start here, and then you will begin to find that you will begin to develop understanding, and that is truly the mark of intelligence. And the physical intelligence itself, the actual application of intelligence in the intellectual form, that'll begin to develop as well. Understanding of right and wrong, discrimination. You can be very intelligent, but you have no discrimination. You can't tell what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing. In other words, what is right? That which is going to take us to freedom. That which is going to take us to God. What's wrong? Those things that are going to take us away. That's the true, for the devotee, the true mark of what's right and what's wrong. That's what discrimination is about. And you could say, what is the best tool for the developing discrimination, developing intelligence? Immersion of oneself in the divine flow, immersion in bliss, immersion in God. Feeling God's presence develops the keenest intelligence. A person can see to the core of every situation. So delve into the bliss, delve into that ocean of joy, and then from that you'll begin to find that your intellectual side, and I don't mean to denigrate it in any way, but it comes second. First, find God and dive into God. And then addressing that where we started, cleverness versus intelligence. Cleverness is just a small aspect of intelligence. And you could say cleverness is the application of intelligence, but perhaps it's limited. If you don't have the heart, you might be very clever, but you really can't be considered intelligent as well. Now I'd like to conclude, I have a few minutes left, and I'd like to conclude with a little exercise that I would recommend that you do. You might, and sometimes just sitting in your period of meditation, practice this from time to time. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, feel your attention here at the heart center, and feel the energy at the heart center there, building at that point. Feel love in the heart, so that there's some sensation there. And then once you feel that, then as you inhale, feel as if you're drawing that life force from the heart up the spine to the point, directing it here to the point between the eyebrows. And as you exhale, say, I am spirit. Drawing that energy of the heart, turning it up to the brain, up to the point between the eyebrows. I am spirit. And then as you exhale, feel yourself interiorizing and going deeper and deeper into the inner self as you draw the breath back down to the heart. And then again, as you inhale, I am light, as you draw the life force up to the point between the eyebrows. Then as you exhale, go deeper into the inner self, back into the heart, and feel there. And as you inhale, I am love. And then back down. And then again, I am spirit, I am light, I am love. Let's practice that. It's inhale, tense, throw the breath out. Now focus your attention at keeping the eyes uplifted while you do this. Don't let the eyes go up and down. Keep the eyes uplifted, but your inner attention is at the heart, and feel there. Now as you inhale, draw that life force up. I am spirit. Placing it the point between the eyebrows, your tension. Now as you exhale, feel yourself being drawn deeper into the deep spine of the self, back to the heart. Now again, inhale, I am light. Exhale, back to the heart. I am love. Exhale, back to the heart. Continue now afterwards, after we sign off. When you meditate, practice this for a few minutes, and you'll feel the heart's energy beginning to develop, and you'll feel yourself interiorizing, bringing this life force of the heart developing there, and then not leaving it there to outwardly express emotionally, but then drawing it upward, up to the point between the eyebrows, giving yourself up into the light, up into spirit. Many blessings.